Emma.
Hello, Emma.
Hi, who's that?
Linda
Robert.
Bauer.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Linda. Hi, Robert. Hi,
Hi,
Adrian.
everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Judith.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Hi, everybody. Hi,
I already have my candles
Karen.
lit.
Hey, Kay.
Does anyone else hear fireworks?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Fireworks.
Those are some loud fireworks that are getting lit every day.
Who's
Next to
doing the
and-
candles? Oh.
Okay. So now I am going to mute everybody.
Oh, bye.
So now all of you are muted. And at different times, if you have something to say, you can unmute yourself. Noni, you're going to need to unmute yourself because I can't hear you anymore.
I'm good.
You're
Can you hear
good.
me? I'm good.
Yes. Shabbat shalom, everyone. So here we are on the holiday of Juneteenth, which we're going to be talking about a little bit during our service. And we're going to have some special music in honor of Juneteenth as well. And of course, as we do every week, we are also celebrating Shabbat, this special holy time when we put aside the week and move into a space of peace and rest. Rest is itself a holy endeavor. So let's just take a moment and take a deep breath if you choose to. Appreciate the ability to take a breath. Breathe out the tension in our bodies and in our minds and in our souls. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. So before I light the candles, I have a special intention, a special kavanah to share. Our sages teach that Shabbat is 1/60th of the world to come. One of the gifts that abolitionist thought offers us is the ability to imagine a new kind of world, one in which our communities operate on the principles of life rather than death, dignity rather than oppression, and care rather than violence. So let us take a moment as we are about to light the candles that will indicate that Shabbat has begun, to imagine what it would be like to be in that world. I invite you to think about a book or an article that you have read recently, that introduced you to a liberatory idea that you had never before imagined could be possible. Or think about an image you saw or a sound that you heard recently that illustrates for you what a future world could look like. Perhaps there was an action you took recently to build toward that world. As we light the Shabbat candles, see if you can feel that world all around you, increasingly real and present, a taste of the world to come. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav mitzivanu להדליק נר של Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat. We continue on with our Kaddish, and I'd like to invite Linda Kushner-Silverman to unmute herself and read the Kaddish for us in English.
Praise you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. Praise you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who finding favor with us, sanctified us with the mitzvot. In love and favor, you made the Holy Shabbat our heritage as a reminder of the work of creation. At first among our sacred days, it recalls that exodus from Egypt. You chose us and set us apart from the peoples. In love and favor, you have given us your Holy Shabbat as an inheritance. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, v'kadesh Shabbat. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech olam, borei peri v'anofen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech olam, asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. V'shabbat kodsho be'ahavo v'ratzon inchilanu. Zikaron le'masei v'reishit, ki hu yom tehila le'mikrai kodesh, zeicher letziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'chata v'otanu kiddashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava v'ratzon hinachaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai Kaddish Shabbat. Amen.
And now we continue with Lecha Dodi, the poem from the mystics that invites us to turn to one another and address each other as beloved and say, come with me to meet the Shabbat bride.
Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. 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 שמעו וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, התעוררי, תברכו אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך אדוני לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך אדוני לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, לך אדוני לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך אדוני לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
I invite you to rise if you choose and if you're able, as we continue with the call to worship, the Baruch Hu.
Baruch et Adonai המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך, לעולם ועד, המבורך, לעולם ועד.
Let's be seated. I invite you to read with me. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim.
אהבת עולם את ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל.
We continue with the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Elohim אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לי תותפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Instead of our usual prayer, Emet ve'emunah, I brought one today by Rabbi Jill Jacobs. So please join me, it's on the screen. Guiding power of the universe, compassionate one, you brought us forth from slavery to freedom, from oppression to liberation. You teach us in your Torah, in the portion that Jews read this Shabbat, Shalach Lecha, I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, Mitzrayim, to be your God. You teach us through the words of the medieval Jewish sage Rashi, on this condition I redeemed you, that you would accept my laws upon yourselves. God, you have taught us that freedom from human servitude means the obligation to serve you. You brought us out from Mitzrayim, the narrow place, the land of oppression, and charged us to ensure that the lands of our freedom would never resemble Mitzrayim. In Mitzrayim, the majority feared and suspected a minority and subjected them to enslavement and violence. In this land, God, give us the wisdom to reject the idolatry of placing any race or religion in mastery over others. Give us the courage to embrace the dignity and rights of every single human being created equally in your image, and to delight in the many cultures of your creations. In Mitzrayim, the majority's hatred and denigration of a foreign minority justified ripping babies out of the arms of their parents. In this land, God, give us the compassion to treat all children with love, to take responsibility for their health and safety, and to ensure that they are safe in the arms of their families. In Mitzrayim, Pharaoh, an autocratic and narcissistic leader, subjugated both his own people and foreigners in order to enrich and empower himself and to build monuments to his own glory. In this land, God, give us the strength to preserve democracy and the rule of law, for we are all equal in your sight. In the words of the Psalms, you secure justice for the oppressed, provide food for the hungry, and set free those who are imprisoned. You have commanded us in your Torah to walk in your ways. We thank you, God, for the opportunity and the obligation to serve you. We thank you for bringing us together in this sacred task to repair brokenness and to establish justice and righteousness for all people in this land. Blessed are you, Adonai, who loves justice and righteousness. And we continue with Mi Chamocha.
Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi chamocha nehidar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osefele, nora tehilot osefele. Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi chamocha nehidar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osefele, nora tehilot osefele.
Give us a place to rest, Adonai, our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. V'shamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים את הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We continue with the tefillah. If you are able and if you choose to, I invite you to rise.
Adonai שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohi Avotinu v'Imoteinu, Elohi Avraham, Elohi Yitzchak, Elohi Yaakov, Elohi Sarah, Elohi Rivka, Elohi Rachel, Elohi Leah, Ha'el Hagdol Hagibor ve'hanora, El Elyon, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר, מושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, בחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו בשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, נאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יחללוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Let's be seated. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yir'ah na'avod. We come now to our prayer of gratitude. And so if anyone has something that you're feeling grateful for today, I invite you to share it in the chat, or certainly you may also unmute yourself to share it with us out loud. Anyone? Any gratitude today?
Hey, I'm
Emma.
Emma.
Hi, I'm grateful for the sun today.
Grateful for the sun. Thank you. Modim anachnu lach. We are grateful. Adrian.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to turn 60 today. I am eternally grateful.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Adrian. Modim anachnu lach. We are also grateful that you are with us beginning your 61st year. It is, right? Linda Kushner-Silverman.
I'm grateful for the ability to have seen my family, who I have not seen in 4 months, in my niece's backyard out on Long Island, to celebrate 2 great nephews' various graduations. And we were socially distanced, but we actually saw each other. So I'm very grateful for that.
Oh, that is wonderful. Thank you, Susan. Linda Kushner-Silverman.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm grateful Jackson had his graduation today. He's going into middle school. And I'm grateful I have 99% I have an aide to be in my home when I have my surgery.
Oh, that's great.
So, yes.
We are grateful for that. Ellen Rothstein, would you like to unmute yourself?
Yes, I am very grateful that I am starting tutoring online with my students very soon, and it feels really good to get back to teaching on some level.
Wonderful. Modim anachnu lach. We are grateful for getting back to some semblance of normal, being able to resume something new. Robert says he is grateful for quiet streets for walking. Catherine Haslinger is grateful for Shabbat, a day to unplug from the hassles of the week, perhaps, I hope, and be able to rest and rejuvenate. Margaret Bernstein says she is grateful for the beautiful nature that surrounds her in upstate New York and the beautiful flowers. Modim anachnu lach, we are grateful for whatever nature we have access to. And Margaret, we're also grateful that you can join us from upstate New York. iPhone, which I'm not completely sure who that is grateful for the good health of my family and friends and grateful for Zoom. Leah Sofian says, today I am grateful to celebrate freedom with the African American community on Juneteenth and for Zoom Shabbat. And Alan says, for the time I spent this week with so many temple friends I saw and spoke to today, we are grateful for being able to be with friends. And Darby says, I'm grateful for my family. So is there anybody else? Oh, Linda.
Yes, I'm grateful for
Which
beautiful.
Linda is that? Linda Feller. Sorry, go ahead, Linda Feller.
I am grateful for a beautiful breeze blowing through my windows, expecting a very hot summer, and each day that isn't is wonderful.
Yes, we've had some very beautiful days to be grateful for. So, Modim anachnu lach, we are grateful for all of these things. So, Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha ulecha na'el lehodot. And now we continue with our prayer for peace in our souls, in our homes, in our country, in our world.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Ki atah melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki atah melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha tasim le'olam. V'tov b'necha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם.
And now we continue quietly. If you have a prayer book, there are words on pages 180 and 181. If you can see the screen, there are words on the screen, but of course we can always use the words that are in our own hearts. We continue quietly.
יהיו לרצון
May the words of our mouths and the meditations in our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. We turn our thoughts now to those among us and those in our hearts who are ill and who are in need of healing of body, of mind, or of spirit. If you have names to add that you have not yet sent to me, you may type them into the chat, or I will give you an opportunity to add them aloud a little bit later on. We hold in our thoughts and in our prayers for healing this evening, Evelyn Urbano, Jesse Sakharoff, Ronnie Turek, Ira Weiss, Elaine Drucker, Alan Fremer, Susan Bilecki, Nathan Aaron Robbins, Andrew Mazzella, Jeff Levinson, Michael Scott Landisberg, Michael Luck, Alana Beth Berger, Shelley Oken, Louise Dankberg, Jane Berman, Harry Bower, Ronald Resnick, Linda Kushner Silverman. Charlotte Russell adds Barry Strumpf and Selma Carl. Linda Horowitz adds Sandy Alfont, Irene Nachanoff, and Esther Batlusi. Jesse Schulman adds Orville Degener, Ellen Hoyt, and Ron Burke. Pam Glansman adds Andy Glansman and Deanna and Ira Roth. Patricia Matthews adds Elena Aram, Chanel Kamabach, Warren Feliz, Jimmy Jenkins, Peter Gale, and Paul Kastick. Sam and Fran Silverman add Vicky Lightnaker, Eddie DeAngelis, Nettie Trummer, Dave Moore, and Mia Gannon. Freema Schneier adds Elaine Gordet, Ellie Heinrich, Phyllis O'Neill, Shari Rolnick, Marcy Babayatsky, Shirley Amrani, and Perry Frankel. Susan Sisler adds Dolores Weinberger, Ingrid Grosso, Roberta Gotthelf, Audrey Cohen, and Fran Sisler. Stan Hollander adds John Carfisi, Francis O'Haran, and Orlando Aiello. Jane and Harold Gleiberman add Suzanne Leknos and Florence Schoen. Hannah Roth-Seavey adds Joellen Fox. Linda Feller adds Annie Nusimovici and Michelle Nusimovici. Sarah Rothstein adds Arnie Rothstein. Linda Kushner Silverman adds Jackson Kushner, Tara Kushner, Shelley Samet, David Gershon, and Stanley Tenen. Ellen Rothstein adds Rebecca Rothstein and Bambi Polk. Diane Schenker adds Bert Migdal. Ruth Belay adds Liz Yasuda, Park Shing Lam, Richard Zagame, Mark Steiner, Paul Steiner, and Elizabeth Steiner. Patty and Erwin Cohen and Monica Bayer. Dale Harnick adds Ronald Resnick. Mona Goldberg adds Anna Flores, Marlene Unterberger, Francis Bergman, Delphine Wolf, Freya Kashmir, and Michelle Boudin. Helene Smith adds Barbara Magid. Jan Hutner and Richard Miller add Darren Brewer and Renee Ponset. Darby Evans adds Jane Evans. Alan Zarrow adds the members of the NYPD. Catherine Haslanger adds Lynn Halbfinger and Gail Wasserman. Ellen Rothstein adds Daniel Ortiz. Margaret Bernstein adds Alex Thune. Susan adds Julie Cicero and Carol Samuels. Emma Rose adds Jeff Silberman. Hazel Tishkoff adds Sue-Ann Fishkin Hurwitz and Della Cohen. Margaret Bernstein adds the Children of Schenectady, New York. Karen Kramer adds Marion McGivney. Linda Kushner Silverman adds Levana Tenen, Ronnie Katlowitz, Camille McGinnis, and Mona Goldberg adds Freya Kashmir, Delphine Wolf, Marlene Unterberger, and Michelle Boudin. Does anyone have any other names that they would like to add? Durley?
Carmen Cordero.
Thank you. Mike?
Robert Perlman, Alan Rose.
Robert Perlman, Alan Rose. Linda Feller?
Kimberly Finnegan.
Kimberly Finnegan. Judith?
Stacy David, Lauren, Julia, and Wilma Mauser, Hannah Paines, and Irene Nashina.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We also include all of those who are suffering from COVID-19 or from the measures we are taking to mitigate the spread of the virus. We include all of those who have been hurt in the recent protests, and we include all of those who have been wounded in service to our country or Israel, and those who have been hurt in recent other disasters, both natural and human created. Misha Berach.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mikor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishe Berach Imotenu Mikor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's a pleasure, as always, to be here with you and to be able to share some words of Torah. This week's Torah portion is Shalach Lecha, and it includes the story of the spies that Moses sends into the land of Canaan. To recap, the Israelites have received the Torah and journeyed through the wilderness to the border of the promised land, the land of Canaan. And actually, it doesn't take them very long to get there. It's not that far. Our parsha begins with Moses sending 12 spies, one from each tribe, to scout the land and see what it's like. Moses says to them, "Go up there into the Negev and on into the hill country and see what kind of country it is. Are the people who dwell in it strong or weak, few or many? Is the country in which they dwell good or bad? Are the towns they live on open or fortified? Is the soil rich or poor? Is it wooded or not? And take pains to bring back some of the fruit of the land." The 12 spies go, they look, they come back. They agree on the facts, but not the interpretation of the facts. They say that the land is fertile and flows with milk and honey, but that there are large fortified cities and powerful people living there. And then they diverge. Caleb, supported by Joshua, says that the Israelites should go forward, that they will be able to conquer the land. The other 10 spies say no way. And most of you probably know what happens next. The Israelites side with the majority of the spies, and they turn against Moses and Aaron. Consequently, the Israelites are shut out of the land, having cried out, "It would be better to die in the wilderness than to die by the sword in that land." God says to the Israelites, "Fine, I'll give you what you want. You will not enter the land, but you will die in the wilderness as you have requested. And the Israelites begin what will be 40 years in the wilderness. Why are the Israelites so easily swayed to believe that they cannot conquer the land? After everything they've seen and experienced, we might think that they should know the power of God, that they should know that God is with them. And yet, they don't seem to believe that, and they end up doomed to die in the wilderness. One way that people sometimes understand their reaction, and perhaps some of their other behavior as well, is that these were people who spent their whole lives before the Exodus enslaved in Egypt. Not only were they enslaved for their whole lives, but their parents and grandparents and ancestors lived their whole lives enslaved in Egypt, going back 400 years. So one interpretation of the behavior of this generation of Israelites is that they were not able to live independently. They were trapped in the mindset of having been slaves and were not equipped to build a new nation as free people. In our own day, slavery is not so far in our past. As I mentioned earlier, today is Juneteenth, the celebratory day when 155 years ago, Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and proclaimed that all slaves had been freed by the Emancipation Proclamation. President Abraham Lincoln had signed the Emancipation Proclamation a full 2.5 years earlier, but during the Civil War, the Confederate States ignored it. And thus it was that on June 19, 1865, the people of Galveston were the last ones to receive the news that all slaves were freed. This past week, my father, who some of you are friends with him on Facebook, and so you might have seen what he posted this. Back in the 1950s, when I was a boy, there was a TV show called I've Got a Secret, where panelists would try to guess the secret held by a guest contestant. One time, the contestant was an aged man whose secret was that he was an eyewitness to the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Think of that. During my lifetime, Lincoln's assassination was still a living memory. There were at the same time, and for a decade longer, though not on the TV show, other aged individuals who had been enslaved. So during my lifetime, slavery was still a living memory. In addition to that, and my dad was born in 1946, the last person to receive a Civil War pension, the daughter of a Civil War veteran, died just last month. Juneteenth was not so long ago. Juneteenth marked the moment when the Emancipation Proclamation fully took effect, and altogether 4 million enslaved people became free. Just as the Israelites burst into singing and dancing after crossing the Red Sea, many formerly enslaved people reacted to freedom with jubilation. After surrender, I can remember the Negroes were so happy, recalled Hamp Santee, who had been enslaved in Mississippi. They just rang bells, blowed horns, and shouted like they were crazy. Then they brought a brand new rope and cut it up into little pieces, and they gave everyone a little piece. And whenever they look at the rope, they should remember that they were free from bondage. Also in our Torah portion this week is the commandment to put tzitzit on your garments, fringes on your garments, to remind you of the commandments. And so how similar is that to having a little piece of rope that you can look at to remind you that once you were enslaved and that now you are free? In 2015, the Washington Post quoted from Booker T. Washington's autobiography, Up From Slavery, that he described wild scenes of ecstasy in response to news of freedom that came to the farm in Virginia where he grew up as a slave. But the rejoicing, he wrote, was quickly tempered by a new reality. For I noticed that by the time they returned to their cabins, there was a change in their feelings. The great responsibility of being free, of having charge of themselves, of having to think and plan for themselves and their children seemed to take possession of them. A feeling of gloom seeped into the slave quarters, Washington wrote. To some, it seemed that now that they were in actual possession of it, freedom was a more serious thing than they had expected to find it. Some of the slaves were 70 or 80 years old. Their best days were gone. They had no strength with which to earn a living in a strange place and among strange people. Unlike the Israelites who left Egypt with their own goods and the gold and silver of their neighbors, American formerly enslaved people were left with nothing. Some did indeed stay where they were, trying to make a living working for their former masters, now for wages. Others left immediately and went to look for work in the cities. Some freedmen tried to scrape together nickels and dimes to buy land, creating all Black communities and towns across the country where Black people sheltered from a white world would run stores, banks, post offices, and schools. By 1888, there were at least 200 Black towns and communities nationwide. Some of them had been started by free Blacks, starting with the American Revolution, but many of them were created after emancipation. Today, there is little history recorded from many of those towns, and most of them are fading away. By looking at our recent history here in the United States, we can see a range of responses to sudden freedom among those who spent their lives enslaved. And it's reasonable to imagine that among the Israelites too, there was a range of responses to that sudden change in their status. Fear is certainly one of the responses. And that is what led the Israelites to a lack of trust in their own strength and also in God. And that led to the fact that the generation who left Egypt would die in the wilderness. But it also took incredible courage for the Israelites to leave Egypt and to create their own new society in the wilderness. And they did it. The generation of Israelites that was born enslaved and became free died in the wilderness. But in the wilderness, those Israelites were free and they were with God. Similarly, Americans who were formerly enslaved and their descendants had to have enormous courage and still do living in our society. Juneteenth celebrates their freedom and their courage. Let us recognize and honor the strength and courage it takes to embrace freedom after a lifetime of bondage. For the Israelites in our Torah, for the freed slaves in the United States, and for everyone who steps from a life of oppression into an unknown new life, whether through immigration or through divorce or through some other kind of transformation. Let us hold hands and go forward toward a full manifestation of every promised freedom. May we be able to envision a better future, and may we work together toward achieving it. Amen and Shabbat Shalom.
A spiritual. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Yes, every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Upon the mountain, my God spoke. O'er the mount came fire and smoke. All around me look so shine. Ask my God if all is mine. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Yes, every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. The river Jordan runs right cold, chills the body, not the soul. Ain't but one train on this track, runs to heaven and right back. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Yes, every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray.
We look forward to the day when all the world will be one, when we will be united, when we will be at peace with one another. We turn to the Aleinu. If you have a prayer book, it's page 586 at the top of the page. And I invite you, if you're able and if you choose, to rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולו ליוצא בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומשל יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגופי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Let's be seated. We turn our thoughts now to those who are no longer with us, our loved ones who have died in the past days or weeks or months, or in past years at this time of the year. If you are observing a yard site or have names that you would like to add for the Mourners Kaddish that you have not already sent me and you're on Zoom, you may add those names in the chat, and I'll also give you an opportunity to add them out loud if that is what you prefer. We remember those who have died in the past year. Dr. Stephen Kamholtz, Robert Serpico, Jeanette Riley, William Lamp, Martin Shankin, Solomon Tettelbaum, Sean Singer, Jeff Harris, Sammy Berger, Rabbi Kenneth Roseman, Chaim Brownswag, Harry Baylor, Ben Schaefer, Shirley Hyatt Tobias, Myron Klein, Ted Tobias, Sandy Gannon Abel, David Ribbler, Bess Newman, Buzz Lorch, Benjamin Binyamin Elwood, Edward Albino, Joseph Davis, Jerry Charin, Gary Zeitlin, Sean Devlin, David Levy, Lenny Drucker, Beverly Tredinnick, Evelyn Pincus, Rita Spiro, Beatrice B.J. Jacobs, Melvin Jorgrau, Gloria Katzen, Lorraine Elner, Amanda Corwin, Mel Paul, Nigel Grant, Benjamin Resnick, Robin Silverman, Jeanette Zarrow, Claire Strauss, Roberta Kessman. Ellen Rothstein adds Selma Gold, Jeff Harris, Helen Polk, Sheila Catan, Dr. Mark Leibowitz, Dr. Tina Polk, Dr. Austin Schlecker. Ken Orland adds his mother, Evelyn Orland. Hannah Roth Seavey adds Ronald Seavey. Ruth Belay adds Rita Belay, Jay Jankelowitz, and Howard Jankelowitz. Mara Minsky and Mike Wadman add Sally Wadman. Eric Platt adds Abby Scheck. Jane and Harold Gleiberman add Arthur Roski. Jesse Schulman adds Rafael Cortez. Margaret Bernstein adds Harry Bernstein. This week is the yard site of the 9 people who were shot and killed at Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina on June 17, 2015. On our yard site list today are Barbara Wasserman's mother, Mildred Feinberg, Ruth Levine's father, Morris Greenwald, Harriet Ottenheimer's aunt, Pearl Joseph, Fran Levine's mother, Roma Levine, Dr. Elizabeth Cloner's mother, Merle Stein Tooby, and this is the second yard site of congregant Vilma Manis. Susan adds Sam Handworker. Karen Kramer adds Leatrice Langer. Hazel Tishkoff adds Mel Barish. Emma Rose adds James Skurlock, David McAtee, Chris Beatty, and Dorian Merle. Alan Zarrow adds Robert Bloom. Does anyone else have any names they would like to add? Would you like to unmute yourself to add a name?
Rabbi, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I see on the yard site list is Lillian Weltman. She was my grandmother's sister.
Thank you, Judith.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? We also include all of those who have died from COVID-19, those who have died in any recent violence, any recent protests, and those around the world who have died whether or not they had anyone to say Kaddish for them, and whether they perished in war or famine or terror or disaster, or alone and homeless on our city streets. I invite you, as I switch back to our prayer book, I invite you to participate in the Mourners Kaddish according to your tradition. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach yiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayeh dechol beit Yisrael, ba'gala u'v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit alev, v'yit halal, shemei, dekudesha, barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, dam yaran b'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to the bereaved wherever they may be. And let us say amen. If you have risen, you may be seated.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu.
A few announcements before our closing song. Tomorrow at 9:45 in the morning, we will meet on Zoom for Biyachad, which is our discussion group for adults. Everyone is welcome at that. The Zoom link went out yesterday in an email, which hopefully you received. And then you can stay on after Biyachad. It's the same Zoom link for services at 11. And this month is LGBTQIA plus Pride Month. And so tomorrow we're going to have a special service for Pride to celebrate. And so that I think and I hope will be lovely. Tomorrow evening is also a very special event at 7 p.m. on Zoom. Our associate rabbi educator, Rabbi Alexis Pinsky, is going to be leading a Havdalah and sing-along of old and new songs about social justice. And that should be super fun. So come to that as well. It is also on Zoom. The link was all the way down at the bottom of the links email that you should have received. And I also sent out a separate email today with just that Zoom information so that you can have no excuse not to have the Zoom information. But if you find for some reason that you do not have the Zoom information, get in touch with me. I'll send it to you again. So that should be lots of fun as well. On Tuesday, Sam Silverman leads Torah study at 1 o'clock, and you can contact him. And if you want to be involved with that, if you don't know how to contact him, contact the temple office and they will help you. Always contact the temple office if you are in doubt. Alice will assist you. Next week will be like this week, sort of, with services on Friday night at 8 and Biyachad and Shabbat services on Saturday morning. So we are going to have a special, I think that's all the announcements. That's everything I can think of. We're going to have a special closing song, which I am going to share the lyrics with you. Lift every voice and sing. Is that right, Noni?
That's right.
All right.
We'll see. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing arise, high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing our song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing our song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. God of the weary years, God of the silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places of God where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadow before, shadow beneath thy hand, may we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha yasem lecha shalom. May God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine on you and be gracious to you. May God lift God's face toward you and give you peace. Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
So